Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Hope you're all fit and well. Even though I had a great time while I was away, good to be back. I can hear myself in my own headphones, which is never good. Let me see what I can shut down to get rid of that. Get rid of that. Yeah, that seems to have done it. Listen to myself over on YouTube for some reason. Let's have a very quick look in the chat. Morning, Mark says, take it you've heard 4 tower blocks in Glasgow set to be demolished with explosives next year by SafeDem. Louis, I hadn't heard that. Good morning to you, by the way. I hadn't heard that, but I do know William Sinclair and his dad as well, very, very well. Hope to be up for that. I was certainly there for Red Road, so yeah, looking forward to that. That's going to be a good one, and certainly the demolition will be in very safe hands, if you'll pardon the pun. SafeDem, one of the world leaders. They actually hold the world record for the largest ever explosive demolition, just in case you were wondering. Now, normally when I return from a short break, I apologise for my absence, and I'm kind of doing that this morning, but I also wanted to say a big thank you too. As you will well know, I pre-recorded a pair of shows before I left, and you really supported them, which I was really quite pleased with your usual mix of comments and banter, so thank you for doing that. In addition to that, I was trying to keep up with our WhatsApp group chat while I was away, and I was delighted to see you all so supportive when Peter McKenna was off-hired rather without notice. Really lovely to see. Proper community spirit, so thank you very much indeed for doing that, chaps. Now I can finally reveal, if you can't see it on the board there, there you are. I don't know how well you can see that. I can finally reveal where I've actually been. I've been to Bavaria in Germany, part of Wacker Neussen's 175th anniversary celebrations. Now, if EasyJet had taken off and landed on time, I'd have a Wacker film for you this morning. Sadly, EasyJet did neither of those things. So I got home way too late last night to turn it around. In addition to all that, I've returned to... we will bring you a bunch of films. Probably about 10 interviews I did while I was there. So lots and lots of Wacker Neussen content to come. In addition to all that, I have returned clutching bags of goodies. Bags of Wacker Neussen goodies. There's all manner of stuff in there, and we will be giving that away at some point in the not too distant future. In addition to which, it is my plan, because we managed to get so many good things in the can, at some point in the not too distant future, we will be hosting a dedicated evening show one Wednesday evening, dedicated entirely to Wacker Neussen. So I want to say a very quick thank you to my mate Marius over at Wacker Neussen and the entire team who made both myself and Fred feel incredibly welcome. We were there obviously to do a job of work, and we did that very, very well, I think. But I also came back feeling like I've made some new German friends, which is always a bit of a treat. Now, without further ado, let's have a look. Just going to throw back to the chat very quickly. Louis says, yes, I met William Sinclair and his dad long ago, along with Dick Green, rather, and John Woodward in 2013. It was great to see how things are done on site and getting insight into explosive demolition. We need more people like you, Louis, getting behind the scenes, because we are, to a large degree, I think William Sinclair currently is the last of his breed. Dick Green, obviously, fantastic guy, and has been around the demolition industry and the explosive demolition industry for decades and decades. But Dick must be, well, he is beyond retirement age. John Woodward is also beyond retirement age. William Sinclair, last of the breed. So, yes, please, people, go and learn how to blow up buildings, would you? Because we're going to need you at some point in the future. And there is Al Grissom, all the way from Luxembourg. I was a little bit nearer to you the last few days, Al. I couldn't see you quite from where I was stood, but you get the idea. So yes, what say we, without further ado, we roll the intro, post the question of the day. Did I do a question of the day? Yes, I did. Let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. I'm going to throw over to the chat very quickly. Have you had any updates on Didcot? I understand there is movement. I can't. I mean, I genuinely don't know any more than that, but I understand there is some movement there. So hopefully, I'll be reporting on that very, very soon, because after 7.5 years, it's about time we had some bloody movement on the damn thing. Now, it is Friday, the 15th of September. Welcome to the lightly perfumed box of delights that is the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, Sennebogen performs a balancing act. Ausa reveals a new 2-ton dumper, and Demolition has all the details. We're heading down under to see a Liebherr R 9600 mining excavator being assembled. We're celebrating the 60th birthday of the Epiroc breaker. Plus, John Deere shows off the 85 Pier-T excavator, and we're going to get to all of that in a second. But first, let us peer back through the mists of time to see what was happening on this very day in history. On this day in 1835, naturalist Charles Darwin arrived in the Galapagos Islands on board HMS Beagle. In 1916, you'll enjoy this. In 1916, tanks were used in warfare for the first time as part of the Battle of the Somme, and for some reason, they were known as Little Willies. Yes. In 1978, Muhammad Ali beat Leon Spinks to regain his heavyweight title. In 1995, the movie Seven was released. What's in the box? And on this day in 2022, tennis legend Roger Federer announced his retirement, and the sport will never be the same again. Now, before we get into the real meat of the show, let me remind you very quickly of the question of the day. Now, I believe I've updated this. It's been a funny old morning, to be honest. I had updated it. So yes, the question of the day today is, what is your favourite decade? I was born in the 60s, loved the music of the 70s, and I got married in the 1990s. But for me, the 1980s were the greatest years of my life. My favourite music, my favourite fashion. I met my wife. I started writing for a living. And I wasn't yet old enough to know better. What about you? Let us know in the chat. What is your favourite decade? Maybe we haven't had it yet. Don't know. Let's go on with this. There are probably very few among us that will ever have the opportunity to drive a giant Sennebogen materials handler, particularly one with a reach of some 42 meters. However, thanks to a new video from the company, we can now show you what it's like on board this massive green machine. Yeah, what an astonishing piece of engineering. Who'd love to take that for a spin? I'm fairly sure that Dan Cullen would like to. Wow, that's a beauty. He says, I'd love to see that in action. Graham Footy Williams is here as well. Good morning. I hope it's got a self-grease drawer on that. I wouldn't want to go up greasing it. No, fair comment. And he's been away for a long while, but he's back. Morning, Ed. Ed Butler, part of the dynamic duo, is here with us. Good morning, Ed. How is Welsh Wales this morning? Sounds like we've got a bit of a mixed bag of weather. I know it's nice and warm and sunny here in the south, but Glenn Johnson says wet in Belfast. We were so lucky when we were with the weather over in Munich. We landed at Munich airport and it was absolutely tipping it down. We drove, a taxi drove us for about 40 minutes. The sun came out and that's where it stayed. It stayed out. Let's have a look. Oh, lots and lots of stuff, which I may well come back to. Best angle boys I ever saw. Not entirely sure who that was because it's a LinkedIn user, unnamed. Tim Meany, morning Tim, says clever balance looks effortless in raising. You can certainly see the 75% energy savings claim. Yeah, absolutely right. And Gary Muirhead says, question of the day, 2005, the steel wrist was founded. Do you know, Gary, just to let you know, as I say, I was with Wacker Neuson, but they are looking they're looking at the attachments business and the importance of the attachments business. So there were a few steel wrists on display in their Reichterstoffen facility over in Bavaria, and I was talking to them about you and your love of all things steel wrist, and it is Gary Major over on LinkedIn. Morning, Gary. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Let's have a look. Ed Butler says, I'm currently in Ledbury, Hertfordshire, and the weather is good. Ledbury, did you need to use a passport to come this far into the proper country, Ed? I think you probably need to let us know. Now, I think we need one of these. If you were here yesterday, and I know a lot of you were, and thank you for that, you will know that our AI news anchor, Demi Lition, took the reins and kept the ship afloat yesterday for the very first time. By all accounts, she did remarkably well. However, the boss is back, and she's been demoted once again to reporting the news. And her news this time features a new Spanish-built site dumper. Demi, do your thing.
Spanish dumper manufacturer, Ausa, has unveiled a new 2-ton class machine, the D201AHG. The unit's 2,000 kilogram payload places it between the 1,500 kilo capacity D150AHG and the 3,000 kilogram payload D301AHG. One of the key features of the new model is that it can transport more than 1,300 liters of material, making it the dumper with the highest capacity in its class. The D201 is just 1.5 meters wide, making it ideal for transporting soil in locations where space is at a premium. To minimize downtime in the event of maintenance or any issues, it has a backward folding cab that allows easy access to any component. The machine is powered by a reliable 18.5 kilowatt Kubota diesel engine. Combined with the hydrostatic transmission and all-terrain traction, this engine allows the D201AHG dumper to negotiate slopes of up to 50%.
Thanks for that, Demi, and thanks for steering the ship and keeping it afloat while I was away. I'll be calling upon you very, very soon. Just to let you know, I've got a clear week next week, which is good, and then I've got a bad week. I'm away for 2 days in Ireland. I come back for a day, and then I'm in 2 days in Italy. So it's going to be a bit fits and starts. And don't forget, I don't even know what the date is today, to be perfectly honest with you. It is, bear with me. I've already said it once today. I should know, really. It is a Friday, the 15th of September. On Saturday, the 23rd of September, we will be hosting our marathon show. So don't forget that. I'm going to start at 10 a.m. and see just how long we can go for. See how long my voice holds up is basically the idea. But yes, join us for that if you possibly can. Now, this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
I love the chat on this show. Here we go. Gary Muirhead says, how come I always get a semi when Demi talks? I don't know, but you're welcome, I guess. Right, who likes jigsaw puzzles? What about assembling flat pack furniture? Well, imagine that on an absolutely massive scale, and you might have some idea of the task facing these Liebherr installation engineers. I reckon assembling an excavator on the factory floor is hard enough. I can't even begin to imagine the logistics of doing it out in the field. I'm going to throw back to Gary Muirhead, who's just said it just shows you the build quality when everything just slots together beautifully. And I was thinking about that when they were lowering the upper structure onto the slew assembly. Have you ever done that thing with, and I know somebody here said, yeah, it was Leslie, our friend Leslie said, I hate IKEA. But that thing where you're assembling flat pack furniture, and you have literally 2 or 3 or 4 wooden lugs that you need to align with a hole. Even that's difficult, and yet there they are doing that with a slew assembly. Let's have a look. Andy Darvell says, recently done my crawler crane ticket, so soon I'll be transitioning into operating those beasts. Well done, sir. And there is a Jonathan Dures. She's a beast. Yeah, damn tootin' she's a beast. Yeah, you're absolutely right, sir. Now, let's have a little bit of this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
As you now know, I've been in Germany for the past 2 days, helping the Wacker part of the Wacker Neuson Group celebrate its 175th birthday. At just 60 years old, the Epiroc breaker is a mere toddler by comparison, but I think it's still cause for celebration. So many happy returns to the Epiroc breaker, which you might recall started as a Krupp, became an Atlas Copco, ultimately became an Epiroc. But happy birthday to the Epiroc breaker, and many happy returns also to Wacker Neuson, 175 years young. Now this.
If you would like to buy a limited edition Break Fast show sticker, head on over to buymeacoffee.com/demolition news/extras.
Our final film of the day is pretty short, but very sweet. Just 47 seconds long, but it features the very latest in John Deere excavators. So I think you'll agree, even if it's short, it's worth it. Yeah. If John Deere don't hurry up and pitch up over here, I will have no choice but to go there and speak to myself. John Deere, if you're watching, you've been warned. I could be coming your way very soon. I'm going to say goodbye to Gary Muirhead, who has got to go back to work. Have a fantastic weekend, everyone. Have a fantastic weekend yourself, Gary. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, as you so often do. So often, always do, actually. Now, I do have a gripe, and it's a sort of gripe. It's this. I left Munich last night, just over 36 hours before all hell breaks loose in the city with the start of Oktoberfest. They call it Oktoberfest. I think they mean Beer Fest, but you get the idea. Anyway, it starts tomorrow. Even though the event doesn't kick off, as I say, officially till tomorrow, the Lederhosen were out in force and even more evident in the city than usual. But there's a thing I've never noticed before. Calf warmers. Calf warmers. Those are a real thing. Now, in truth, most of the pairs I saw were paired with traditional Lederhosen and Bavarian costume, also very traditional in style. But not all of them. I saw several people wearing them with regular shorts. On the streets of Munich itself, there were billboard adverts featuring high fashion designer calf warmers. These are a real thing, people. My gripe, if you can call it that, is this. Are calf warmers actually better than socks? Surely, even if your calves are warm, your ankles are cold. Do you have to keep pulling them up like you do with socks? And more importantly than all of that, given the fact that it is a very cycle-heavy city, what do cyclists tuck their trousers into if they're wearing calf warmers? All that being said, rather wish I'd brought a pair, just to prove that they actually exist. I know Al Grierson is probably hereabouts. Calf warmers. Luxembourg, have you got those? I'm sure there's a German name for them. I haven't bothered to look it up. That's my gripe of the day. I'd love to hear yours. What is it that grinds your gears, gets your goat, generally butters your parsnips? Daily gripe therapy session will return very, very soon. I'm going to wrap up the show in just a second. I'm going to roll the outro in, and before leaping gazelle, like the usual sort of thing. I want to see what you're all saying today. Also, I want to tell you a bit of an update on my internet stalker. He's back. Dun, dun, dun. If you can't stick around for that, then please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. I will see you again on Monday. Have a good day. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you again on Monday. But if you do have the time and the inclination, please stick around. The crack will begin just as soon as I've had this final word from our key show sponsor, the fine folks at MB Crusher. Good morning, team. How the devil are you? I'm hoping Hoping you were all well behaved. There we go. Al Grierson, gotta go. Retakes before school starts. Peter McKenna says, I used to wear tights years ago when fishing in the winter. Yeah, my dad did a bit of that, actually. I'll go back to the beginning of the chat, and then I'll swing back around to bring you up to date with my my pets. Excuse me, my pet stalker. Who was first off the mark this morning? It was our friend Peter McKenna. Morning, Peter. Hope you're fit and well. Lots of chat over the past couple of days about Peter being off-hired again. No way to treat a person, is it? It really isn't, particularly when you're trying to earn a living, keep the bloody roof over your head. But good morning, Peter. Hope you're back on at work very, very soon. Dan Collins is in the house. Morning, Dan. We'll come back to Dan in just a bit. There is our friend Glenn Johnston. Morning, Glenn. Hope you're fit and well, my friend. Mark Whiting is in the house. Morning, Mark. Just as a very quick reminder, and this is not triggered by Mark at all. I've actually got two of these. Let me turn it around so you can see it. I've actually got two of these bags filled with Wacker Neuson goodies, including, let me have a very quick look. I know for a fact that there's a very fine hat in there, and there's sweatshirts and various other bits and pieces. We'll be giving those away. And the plan basically is I'm going to drip them out over the next few days, weeks, or whatever it will be, when I'm going to keep one of the bags back so that when we do our dedicated Wacker Neuson show in a few weeks' time on a Wednesday evening, we'll have one big bag of goodies to give away to a deserving soul. We'll come back to that at some point. Now, rattling through the chat, who else is here? Andy Darvell says, bloody good morning, one of you. Bloody good morning to you as well, and happy Friday. Thank you very much indeed for that, Gary. I know he's gone back to work. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, guys. Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome back, Mark. I'm glad to be back, but I'm going to pause for a moment and just say what good hosts Wacker Neuson were. And they had a massive display. I mean, literally dozens and dozens of machines, not just their own. They also had some attachments from the likes of Cymex, from Encon, and from Steelris. But they also had tucked around, part of their group includes the Vitamin wheel loaders from... I've not seen a Vitamin wheel loader in action for quite some time. They are part of the gang. And the one that really pleased me the most was Kramer. Back in the very early 1990s, I used to do the PR for a company called Baco Plant. No longer exists, but they were one of the UK dealers for the Kramer 3-1. Well, for the Kramer brand, but the machine that sticks in my head the most was the 312 articulated wheel loader. Fantastic little machine, and they actually had one of those from the 90s on display, but they also had alongside it a couple of machines from Kramer as it is today. Man alive, they've come a long way. They really have come a long way. In addition to that, they also had on display an old Neuson Austrian built Austria, I think it's Linz in Austria, Austrian built mini excavator from back in the day as well, on display. Fantastic bits of kit, proper trip down memory lane. But yeah, The funny thing about it is we were there to celebrate 175 years, and obviously, you know, the company has changed and acquired other companies and what have you. But one of the things that really stood out for me was, in a different way, I think Wacker Neuson is as big an innovator as Volvo, probably. Some of the things that they are doing blow your mind. And one of the things, and I wasn't expecting this to be the case, one of the things that really caught my attention was what they refer to as the Battery One system. So it's an interchangeable, they've basically borrowed it from the power tool sector. So you have one battery that fits all of these, like compaction machines and vibrators and all that kind of thing. But not only are they offering it on their equipment, but they're also making it available to other manufacturers. So the end user, rather than having to have a battery for a Bomag, a battery for a Dynapack, battery for an Aman, a battery for a Wacker Neuson, if everybody pulls together, one battery, one size fits all, and it really is fantastic. And they refer to the Battery One battery as Bob. So I got to meet Bob and spend some time with Bob, and Bob is really bloody good. There's lots more to come. I'll be telling you about that all in due course. There is Peter McKenna. Welcome back, Mark. Thank you very much indeed, Peter. It's good to be back. Chris Hall says, good morning to everyone. Enjoy your day. It's Friday. It is Friday. It most certainly is. Good morning, bro. Good morning to you, Peter. Not Peter, to Graham. Footy Williams, thank you very much indeed for joining us, as you do. Peter McKenna says, glad you could join us. It was touch and go. I finally got back. Bearing in mind, I had to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning on Thursday. The car picked us up at 4. So we arrived in Munich. We arrived at the factory just after 9 o'clock. And then we worked right the way through from 9. And then they had the event in the evening, the band and all of the Germanic stuff that we do. So that didn't... I don't think that ended till about 11. Then we had about half an hour back to the hotel. So it was a long old day. And then to compound it all, it was up early yesterday morning. And then we were delayed on EasyJet last night. So I finally rolled in here about 1:30 last night. Absolutely dog tired. And there was a little bit of me that thought, do I really need to do a show tomorrow? I'm sure they'll understand. And then I thought, maybe they won't. So I got up and did it anyway. You can tell I've done a lot of talking over the past few days. Thank you very much indeed for this update, Louis, over on YouTube. The fact that there are 4 tower blocks in Glasgow set to be demolished with explosives next year by SafeDem. As I say, huge admirer of Messrs. Sinclair, David and William Sinclair. They do a fantastic job. They are... they've done the biggest explosive demolition job in the world. What more do you need to know? If you do that, that kind of ranks you among the very, very best, I would say. So looking forward to hearing more about that. I'm going to be dropping William Sinclair a line immediately after the show. Graham Footy Williams says the government are talking about scrapping HS2 up north. Dear. Why can we not just commit and get the thing done? I was after the event yesterday. We finished about 4 o'clock, I guess, at Reichterstoffen, and then we went off. We got a taxi down to Munich itself, or Munich Central, and then we took the U-Bahn, the underground railway in Munich, to Marienplatz. Or not Marienplatz, it's Marienplatz. I always say Marienplatz because that's how it's spelled. Marienplatz, which is like the central square in Munich. When it had some schnitzel. All of that is by the by, but we were travelling on the U-Bahn, which I don't know how long the U-Bahn has been in operation, but I mean, certainly I've been travelling on it for 30 odd years. But the platforms for the thing are enormous. The trains are wider than our trains because the Germans had the foresight to think that might be the capacity today, but maybe in the future we might need more. So they built more. Same with HS2. Just commit to the damn thing and get the bloody thing done, would you? How are we all? Dan, I'm a little bit tired. I'm a little bit hoarse, but I'm firing on all cylinders and glad to be back. Tim Meaney, good morning, everybody. Everybody peeps. Yeah, good morning. Just as a small aside, I realise that this is not how it is spelt, but I will tell you this. This will not work in Germany because I'm sure they accept it to be the norm. I was introduced to a guy, it wasn't yesterday, it was the day before, whose first name was Helmut. And he had with him his colleague, who was called Willie. I'll leave you to insert your own jokes. There we are. There's Louis again. Yes, I met William Sinclair and his dad, along with Dick Green and John Woodward in 2013. Great to see how things are done on site and get an insight into explosive demolition. Can I just say, you basically listed some of the people in demolition that I respect the most. Huge amount of respect. Excuse me. Huge amount of respect for Dick Green. Huge amount of respect for John Woodward. And doubly huge amount of respect for both William and his dad, David. Now, I know they spend a lot of time over in the States these days. But yeah, a finer band of men you'd be struggling to find in the demolition field. So you had a good day there, Louis. Let's have a look. Oh, a goodie bag, says Chris Fogg. Yes, a goodie bag. There is a goodie bag coming. Dan's greedy bag has arrived. We shall see. We shall see. He might listen. He may well get to win it again. He normally does. But there's Al Grierson, who is unfortunately back at work. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, gang. Good morning to you as well. Or as I said at the very top of the show, Guten Morgen. I think it's Guten Morgen, meine Damen und Herren. But not with a South London accent, but there you are. Have I heard anything more about Didcot? No. Well, I've sort of had an update. It sounds like the HSE has sort of passed everything that they need to pass over to the police. Quite what that means now, don't know, because as far as I'm aware, the Thames Valley Police have had primacy on the damn thing since it came down, and they've moved it not a single inch forward, but we shall see. So question of the day was, what is your favourite decade? Peter McKenna comes back with question of the day, 70s, obviously. That's when I was born. You were born in the 70s? I could have... I mean, you look like you were born in the 40s. No, I'm not going to say that. 70s. Good decade. Big fan of the music from the 70s. Bigger fan of the music from the 80s, I have to say. Dan Cullen says 20 degrees here in West London. Yeah, it's about that here as well, I would have thought. Question of the day. No doubt, says Dan Cullen. 90s. Great music, not a lot of technology, and people use their heads. Did they? Did they do that? See, to my mind, music, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. My own personal opinion, and listen, it's my show, I can say what I damn well please. But did people really use their heads more in the 1990s? Wasn't my experience. Well, let me put it like this. I didn't use my head more in the 1990s. Saw most of it through an alcohol haze. Let's have a look. It's wet in Belfast. It's always wet in Belfast, Glenn. You should know that by now. Chris Ford says the 70s. Machines were improving by the week. There wasn't so much red tape, and the music was the best. To me, and listen, you know, I have a very wide and varied taste. Some of my favourite tunes of all time would come from the 60s. Huge fan of the Walker Brothers, for example. 70s, awesome, but to me, the 80s, Ultravox and the Human League and OMD and ABC, particular fan of ABC. So yeah, that would be my decade. Wasn't much red tape. Yes, I totally agree with that. And machines improving by the week. I agree with that. I do agree with that. But I tell you what, we were talking while I was over in Germany the past few days, and it really does feel like, I wouldn't describe it as a renaissance, because I think the machine improvements have been coming, thick and fast. I realised that the industry, I wouldn't say took its foot off the gas, but while we were all getting up to tier 3, tier 4 and ultimately tier 5, I got the impression that a lot of R&D spend was, rather than spending it on developing new machines and new systems and new operating platforms, everything was focused on getting the emissions down. That's now, I wouldn't say it's done and dusted, but we're now obviously looking at electrification, and I would say Wacker Neuson is right up there with the very, very best on electrification. But as I say, we were talking about this, and I personally believe that we're probably experiencing a period now of change and evolution within this industry that is unmatched in history. You think back to the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, which is when I joined the industry, in the 90s. Let's say Caterpillar, for example, would launch an excavator, and that excavator would be around for another 5, 6, possibly even 7 years. Yes, it might be tweaked. It might be a 215, and then it might be a 215A and 215B, and then they might launch the replacement for it. Whereas now, it just seems like here's a new machine, here's another new machine, here's another new machine, here's an electrified, here's a battery operated, here's an autonomous, here's a remote control, here's a hydrogen. It just seems to be bang, 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 bang. And despite the fact that the trip to Wacker Neuson was about the past, effectively, 175 years history, I think there were 4, possibly 5 brand spanking new machines on display there. A couple of electrics, which I was pleased to see. But in addition to that, they've also got, which we will be featuring very, very soon. Wacker Neuson, obviously European based, so Germany and Austria based, but they do have a manufacturing facility in China. They've got another one over in America. The one in America over in Menominee Falls. Didn't even know that was a place until yesterday. The Nominee Falls over in Wisconsin. They produce a ride-on tracked loader, multitude of attachments, so ideal for landscaping and small builders and that kind of thing. Pretty smart, I have to say. Keep an eye out for that. My mate Doug from Wisconsin was taking me through that yesterday. I'll be sharing that with you in the not too distant future. Not me. I've parked up, going to get thrown out of the Case Roadshow. Yeah, I didn't make it to the Case Roadshow, and ultimately, for me, it came down to Derby with Case, Bavaria with Wacker Neuson. There was only ever going to be one winner on that. I went to Germany. Jim Turner's with us as well, and I wasn't knocking your part of the country, Jim. I'm just saying Bavaria. I don't do the beer, but the food, lovely. Ben Hanratty, good morning, everybody. Good morning to you, Ben. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. I'm going to go back to the chat in just a second, but I did mention the fact that I was going to mention my pet stalker. I won't bore you with the full details, but I ended up having to take a guy to court because he was threatening me over the internet for a period of about 2 years, in actual fact. Finally got an injunction against him, which ran out about 4 years ago. It was a 2-year injunction, ran out about 4 years ago, and I've never heard a word from him since. So I was pretty sure he emigrated or died, or maybe, unlikely, maybe seen the error of his ways. And lo and behold, there he is, bold as brass, pops onto my LinkedIn the other day and drops me a message. And bizarrely, I mean, the opening was, I know we've had our ding-dongs in the past. Our ding-dongs in the past resulting in a 2-year injunction and 2 police officers having to require hospital treatment. Another time for all of that. But the bizarre thing was, he was actually writing to agree with something I'd written. I don't care. I blocked him anyway, because I don't want to go down that path again. But yeah, my stalker. Turns out he's still around. Can't have everything, can you? Jim Turner says, just goes to show, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. Yes. Where am I going to finish? Scrap heap, probably. Wow, that's a beauty. That's the Sennebogen materials handler. Yeah, 42 metre reach. That is an absolute beast, isn't it? Ed Butler. Morning, Ed. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. I haven't seen Ed for quite some time. I mean, I haven't seen him face to face since Plant Works, but obviously he's been one busy bunny, beavering away, because not only is he part of the dynamic duo, he's also a full-time operator, obviously. So good to have you back, Ed. Give my regards to your sidekick. Haven't seen him for a little while either. Yeah, Chris Ford wouldn't want to be the fitter. Fancy forgetting the spanner, then having to climb back down and up again. Yeah, I've always thought that about the tower crane industry. How do you go to the loo in a tower crane? And what if you get to the top of a tower crane and realise you forgot your sarnies? Could you really face going back down and back up again? Not entirely sure. I'd be bothered, to be honest. Tim Meany says, clever balance. Looks effortless in raising. You can certainly see the 75% energy claims. Yeah, reminded me a bit of, do you remember the old Priestman excavator with a sliding counterweight? So as you boomed out one end, the counterweight would go out and it would balance the whole thing out. Very, very smart. There's some clever buggers in the world, isn't there? Gary Major says, best angle poise I ever saw. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, Gary Muirhead, predictably, didn't go for a decade. He went for a specific year. He went for 2005, the year that his mighty steel wrist first came into being. There is Ed over in Ledbury in Herefordshire rather. Clear and bright and warm in Nottingham. Al Grierson is surviving on subtitles because he's in a room with other people. Have to be honest, and I wonder how many other people do that. I do quite a lot of Zoom calls and Microsoft Teams, and I'm lucky enough to have a dual display. So I have a meeting going on here and I'm watching something over here. I've never gone so far as to put a movie on, but I do watch YouTube from time to time. So if ever you've been on a Microsoft Teams meeting with me and I appear a little distracted, it's because I am. I'm watching something else. I think I screwed up. I think I said that Ed Butler was in Hertfordshire. He's not. He's in Herefordshire, which is why Dan Cullen says, I'm in Hertfordshire if you're around tonight. No, you're quite a way apart, I would say. My favourite comment of the day, there you are. How come I always get a semi when Demi talks? Listen, Gary, we are here to serve. And if that's what gets you through the day, well, I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. Louis says, with me only being 23, I remember being 23. When I was 23, let me think. When I was 23, yeah, I was doing the whole journalism thing. I was living with my girlfriend, who is now my wife, 2 years before I was due to get married. But I digress. This is about Louis. With me being only 23, for me, it's the 2000s. Growing up in Glasgow, loads of tower block demolition on the go. Thankfully, it's all starting to kick off again, so plenty of demolition coming up. I'm pleased to see Safe Dem back in action in Glasgow. But I'm also pleased to see some tower block demolition going on up there, because that was one of the first places where I encountered this whole embodied carbon campaign against demolition. And I can't remember the name of the blocks they'd been earmarked for demolition, and then a local architect started to talk about embodied carbon and got some local academics on board, and that one I think is delayed. So it is good to see 4 going ahead. Leslie says, I hate IKEA. I hate IKEA furniture and all that it stands for, but I'm quite happy to eat their meatballs. Anybody else? Graham says, she's a big lady. No, she certainly is. That was the Sennebogen. Mick Norton has just joined us. Morning, Mick. Thank you very much indeed for being here, as always. Andy Dovell says, now, I hope this doesn't mean that we are losing Andy from the field of demolition into the field of cranes, because as we all know, as I regularly tell Tristan Mays, cranes, definitely gay. Definitely. I don't know how a crane can be gay, but you get the idea. But he's recently done his crawler crane ticket, so I'll be transitioning into operating one of those beasts. Don't leave demolition, Andy. Wouldn't be the same without you. Jonathan Dura says she's a beast. No, she most certainly is. And Dan Cullen has just reminded us, I know I refer to him as Dan Groups Cullen, because he does have these WhatsApp groups trying to find people work. And he says, Andy Darvell, I have a crane operators group on WhatsApp. If you like, open your options. Yeah, absolutely right. So the 2 of them are in touch quite clearly there. There is Gary Muirhead going out of the door. See you later, Gaza. Yeah, never thought of calling Gary a Gaza. Maybe I need to start. Gotta go. Retakes before school starts. Yeah, obviously the educated end of our audience over there in Luxembourg. Peter McKenna says, I used to wear tights years ago when fishing in winter. Yeah, my dad did that. And ultimately became sort of thermals and all that kind of thing. But yeah, why not? But calf warmers. The first time literally, I realised a double take is kind of a movie thing. But the first time I saw a guy wearing a pair of these calf warmers, it was literally never seen that before. Graham Footy Williams, I can't even wear ankle socks now after my injury to the side of my leg. Got an abscess. Had to be cut so many times I can't wear long socks. But I found a place on eBay to get socks now. Maybe calf warmers could be the way forward. You never know. I never bought a pair of socks ever. I wear the ones I get free from the hospital. I've got to be honest. I could probably, not socks, but I could probably go without ever buying a t-shirt again or a sweatshirt, because I've got a collection of Komatsu and Caterpillar and JC. I've got all manner of those. The one problem I have is, as you've probably been able to tell over the last 3 years, my weight fluctuates depending upon my mood. So I've got them ranging from medium to extra large, and it always seems like winter rolls around, and I want to wear the hoodies and the sweatshirts, and most of them are medium. So I'm sat here freezing me bits off. Dan Cullen, unfortunately, that's the problem being self-employed. You're disposable at a moment's notice. It's ridiculous. And reason for this, as I've been told, many operators used to walk off at 1 p.m. as they had timesheets signed, so there was nothing stopping them. I'm sure that is the case, but it's just not the way to treat a guy, you know. And I've said this before, and I realise I work in a very different industry sector, but I am very much when it comes to managing people, I'm very much of the carrot family rather than the stick family. You know, that if your boss looks after you and treats you well, the chances are you will bend over backwards and, you know, work that extra half an hour to keep him satisfied, you know, to do him a favour and that kind of thing. If you're treated like crap, you're going to do the barest minimum. Yeah, can't wait for the Saturday all-day show. I'm not sure I have an all-day show in it for me, but I will do my level best. Yeah, I am. The record I need to beat is 2 minutes 14. 2 minutes 14 is the current record, so I certainly need to beat that. But I would really, really love to be able to double it. I'd love to go to 4:28, and I'm going to do it all unscripted. I am pulling together some bits and pieces of video, and maybe some of the whack and noise and stuff will be ready by then. I am pulling together some bits and pieces, basically to cover up my loo breaks if I need to pop off for the loo or make myself a cup of tea. So I'm going to have some bits in between, but we're just going to have a free-for-all chat and see where it all takes us. The farmers loved the Craic Arctic loader, powerful tool for the size and weight. They really did. When we were working for Baco Plant, a lot went into agriculture, a lot went into builders merchants as well, because of, you know, the Arctic being able to nip in and out of aisles and that kind of thing. I had a terrible one. I had to go to a fertilizer plant where they were using it to basically muck out a shed. The smelliest, most unpleasant place I've ever been. But the Craic was an absolute tool, really was. What connections are on the various electric machines? Are they all different, or are they the same between different brands? So that is one of the concerns, because, and it gets even more complicated. When you get up to mobile equipment like dumpers, skid steers, excavators and that kind of thing, not only are there different connections between different manufacturers, but there are also different connections depending upon the charger that you're using. So you have some that are charged in one way, some that are charged in another. You might have a supercharger capability on some, not on others. And that, I think that's why I was so impressed with this whole battery one system. You know, the manufacturers of the compaction equipment at some point appear to have got around a table and said, look, we're all competitors. Yes, we're all fighting for business. But what say we make the life of the customer nice and easy, where we have just one battery that fits all? And everyone went, yeah, that sounds like a plan. We now need to take... now, I think it's important to note, Wacker Neuson started their journey for electrification a full decade ago. I know it's something that feels, you know, fresh and present and timely, but they've been doing it for 10 years. So I think at the lower end, you know, the compaction end, you know, rammers and plate compactors and that kind of thing, I think they've had more time to get their ducks in a row. What we need now is for those manufacturers of skid steers and compact loaders and excavators to get their ducks in a row as well. The other thing I found interesting, talking to some of their guys, was how closely, and I'm sure this has always been the case, but how closely manufacturers watch other manufacturers. You know, we got to talking about JCB's journey into hydrogen, about the fact that Volvo now have a 20-ton wheel loader and a 20-ton excavator running on electric, and they believe they can go bigger, whereas Wacker believe slightly differently, but they are watching each other to see exactly which way the wind is blowing. Found it really interesting. Excuse me 1 second. Peter McKenna says, good news, I could be on a dozer Monday. I'll keep my fingers crossed for you. Where do you watch on YouTube? I can never find the channel. Just search for Demolition News. All one word. Simple as that. And if you hit the subscribe button over there, you get a notification. It's really as simple as that. Sorry, Mark, I missed what you said about where you can get the Breakfast sticker from. It would look good on my Hall of Fame window. I'll tell you what, Ed, if you're still in the chat, let me have a look. You can find it using the link that I've just posted. Get your sticker here, it says. Go and have a look at that. That'll take you straight to it. Peter McKenna, wish I'd used my head in the 90s. Yeah, well, but then you wouldn't be the man you are today. You know, listen, I've made some fairly large scale cock-ups in my life. My disappearing into an alcoholic haze for a decade or so, that was not good, but it all worked out. Well, I've tried to advise my children. They've listened to some of it, they've completely ignored other bits, but it all kind of works out in the end. It really does. Yeah, I'm with you on 70s, 80s, 90s music. Yeah. The sun's just started to shine here, says Chris Ford. Off to the Case Roadshow, waiting for a machine to land in the yard. Then I'm off. Have a fine day. Give my regards to the fine folks at Case while you're there. Question of the day, 70s, 80s, 90s, as health and safety wasn't as bad on sites as they are now. I think the facts actually disprove that. Obviously, certainly site fatalities. Worse, it's been a decline. 40s terrible, 50s a bit better, 60s a bit better, 70s a bit better, till we get to where we are now, where we kind of seem to have bottomed out. Can't seem to get the site fatality level below about 35 to 40 a year. Wish we could. What about free all Friday? Yeah, I've got to be honest with you, I couldn't. I'm so bloody tired, but it will be back. We will be doing a free for all Friday. What did we call it? Free speech Friday, didn't we? I will be doing that again next week. I couldn't go to Case as work comes first. Yeah, of course it does. Of course it does. You know, it's funny. We used to get involved in the old digger days with the UK, or what used to be half of the UK, Caterpillar dealership. We did the PR for Leverton for a number of years, and they used to have open days, and the most successful open days were usually on a Saturday. And I realise some people do work on a Saturday, but you get a better turnout. And they really played. They played to the crowd. You know, they had bouncy castles for the kids and that kind of thing, so that, you know, Dad, having been at work, it was Dad back in the day, Dad having been at work all week, could still go and play with his diggers, but he could take the wife and kids and they'd think they'd had a good day out. There you are. And now I've got about 20 stalkers. Yeah, but none of you have actually threatened to kill me any time recently. There's the difference. And they're here most mornings at 10 a.m. Yeah, there's the difference, you see. My stalker said he was coming to get me. I kind of know where you all are. You're here waiting for me. It's a different relationship. I'll get out of bed. I do like watching this show in bed. I'd like to do this show in bed. That would be nice. Maybe one day. Maybe we'll do that as a special. Andy Delvell says, I used to drive tower cranes before the credit crisis. Take a bottle up for number one, train your body for number two, so either before or after work. I was on a job with two towers, and the other driver left his lunch bag down the bottom. So I lifted it up to him in a lifting bag. It looked hilarious with such a small bag being lifted. I bet it did, but I bet that was very, very welcome indeed. Check out the link I posted for a crane hotel in Amsterdam. Unique. I'm fairly sure somebody else sent me that a little while ago. I'll have a look. As you know, Mark, I am a massive Wacker Neuson fan. I've had my EW100 for over 3 years. Now it's been an excellent machine. Really want to get a shot on the new EW100, seeing at Balmer. Looks an awesome bit of kit. Yeah, absolutely right. We had some fun with the Wacker Neuson machines, including that one. I'll tell you more when we get there. Retail crane, a plastic bag for the big job, and don't look up, it might run. Yes, it's not. That's not the way to work, though, is it? Really? Do you really want to be doing that in a plastic bag? I'm sitting in a machine loading crusher with chips. I could do with a bag of chips right about now. Bloody starving. I'll never need to buy caps. No, you're damn right. I think Dan said he's up to about 90 odd caps, baseball caps, obviously. You mean 2 hours, not 2 minutes? Not sure. I'm lucky with being limited capabilities for work. With my mental health, with my health conditions rather, and disability. I have my benefits to back me up, but how many haven't got that safety net? It's high time there was a shake-up in the industry. Couldn't agree more. It's Safe Dem and Demmaster you see in Glasgow mostly now. Seems to be seeing less of Coleman and Company now, sadly. Yeah, but they'll just for those of you that aren't in the demolition business, there was a really long spate, best part of a decade, I would say. There was a long spate of tower block demolition, a lot of it done by explosives, but some of it done by high reach as well, and it was part of a tender program, and the tender basically divided it up to I think Demmaster got a bit, TDS got a bit, Safe Dem got a huge bit, and Coleman and Company got a bit as well, and they divided it up themselves. But the biggest and most spectacular, unquestionably, was the stuff that Safe Dem are doing, including Red Road. And while it didn't go exactly according to plan, still a phenomenal feat. There's a video. Go and have a look. You know where to find us on YouTube now. Demolition News. There's a video. I was there. Funnily enough, just by sheer fluke, I decided to take myself up the hill so that I could see all. I think it was 4 blocks or was it 5? Can't remember. Doesn't matter. I took myself up a hill so that I could see the whole lot come down. Had the camera set up, turned to my right, and there was the main man from Demmaster stood beside me, just completely by fluke. Yeah, he gave me a lift back down the hill, funnily enough. My great uncle Ted used to be a European sales manager for Coles Cranes. Coles Cranes, I remember those. When they went bust, he bought a load of their cranes cheap. Started his own hire firm, and I used to go to his yard, drive them when I was around 5 to 10 years old before he died. Great times, absolutely. I do remember Coles Cranes as well. Never really got cranes, but yeah, did a bit over the years, with Ainscow and people like that. And what was the other? Peterborough Crane Hire, who had the worst colour scheme in all of eternity. It was, if anybody knows their football kits, Coventry blue. It's kind of sky blue, but it always looked, even if the crane was completely new, it looked like it had been in service for about 10 years. Yeah, that's where you get your stickers. Chris Ford, everybody have a great weekend. Time to go. Yeah, time to go. Go and play with the case machines. Have a great time. As I say, give them my regards. Enjoy your weekend, folks. I'm here to the end. Just thought I'd get in now. Thanks, Peter. Meant your longer show was 2 hours, not 2 minutes. Yes, 2 hours. 2 hours and 14 minutes. I had to go back and check. 2 hours and 14 minutes is our record, and I want to go for 4 hours and 28 minutes. I don't know if I've got that in me, but we shall see. Shame you didn't read the George Stevenson bit out, Mark. What the hell are you talking about? I wasn't talking about George Stevenson. Is there something in the chat? Something in the chat. Hang on a minute. 1966, year after I was born. The launch at Barrow of HMS Resolution, the first of a class of 4 nuclear ballistic missile submarines built for the Royal Navy. Has this got anything to do with George Stevenson? I think I'm reading the wrong thing here. Hang on a minute. Was there more? Okay. Let me try that again. In 1830, George Stephenson's Manchester and Liverpool Railway opened. During the ceremony, William Huskisson, MP, became the first in the opening ceremony that became the first person to be killed by a train when he crossed the track to shake hands with the Duke of Wellington. Stephenson was from humble beginnings, aren't we all, and was illiterate until the age of 18. The entire family lived in just one room at a house at Wylam. The house was shared with 3 other families. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that being the first person killed by a train, literally as the train line was opened. Always thought that about how unfortunate you must be to be the last person to be killed in a war. You know, the entire world, you think back to World War II, the entire world has said, enough of this, why don't we all just try and get along? We're going to have VE Day and VJ Day and all the other days, and we're calling it off, that's it, we're done, bang, and somebody dies. That is really, really shitty luck, isn't it? Yeah. Sorry, I missed that, Peter. It was just so you know, and I'm sure you see it yourselves because you're watching this as I am. When the show starts, there's kind of a flurry of chat. Then it goes a little bit quiet until we get to the first video. Then there's a flurry of chat after the video. And sometimes, I mean, literally, the ticker alongside the screen here just scrolls down, and I did get to this stuff. My apologies, but thank you for sharing. Have a wonderful weekend, lads, and stay safe. That's a pretty good note to end on. That's an hour and 8 minutes, nearly an hour and 9 minutes in actual fact, which is good practice for my marathon show, which is coming up in, let me think, 8 days' time. 8 days' time, 23rd of September. We're going for the marathon. I mean, to be perfectly honest, even if I get to 2 hours and 15 minutes, I'll have broken the record. But there's no point in breaking a record if you can smash one, is there? Peter McKenna says, bye all. Andy Darvell says, have a wonderful weekend. Have a wonderful weekend, guys. I'm off to ride my motorbike around the Isle of Wight. Be careful, would you? I've seen it on the TV. That's not a good idea. Catch you all on WhatsApp, says Peter McKenna. Yes, I mean, I do have some WhatsApping to catch up on because it was quite busy while I was away. What about 5 hours? Let's see if I can do 4 first, shall we, Dan? Just so everyone knows, my wife goes away on holiday with my youngest daughter on Wednesday next week. And basically, because I will have no chores or duties to perform on Saturday, I've just decided I'm going to pitch up and see where it takes us. You know, go completely unscripted. We'll just chat amongst ourselves and reminisce, look forward, tell tales, some of them true, and see where the whole thing pans out. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, we'll call it a day after half an hour and all go our separate ways and never speak of it again. But I reckon we can do it. Anyway, everybody, that's an hour and 10 minutes. Go and you have my permission to have 2 days off. Not sure what your boss will think about that, but you have my permission to have 2 days off. I'll see you again on Monday as we work our way up to the marathon show. Question of the day, Jim Turner, finally. Got to be the 90s, great tunes just before all the machines adopted too much electronic, unnecessary technology, and our industry wasn't totally obsessed with bits of plastic to determine whether you could be on site. I agree with all of that, apart from the music bit. Because, the decade before, I give you Ultravox and the Human League, and I rest my case. Everybody, have a good one. All the best.